What is up, everybody, and welcome back again to the Z-Man Show, where we are going to be talking Avengers Endgame. And as always, I'm your host, Mike Schilling. We have Dustin Shelton back.
Ooh, what a weekend.
What man. A weekend.
Game of Thrones, Avengers Endgame.
I know. It's just been a crazy time. That's all I can say, really. But it's been fun. I mean, right? We've had all this crazy stuff going on.
I mean, looking forward to, this movie alone for a long time, but also Game of Thrones final season kind of coming out.
It is.
Yeah, these last few.
So quick, straight off the bat, so we had Avengers Endgame previewing actually Thursday evening, right?
Yeah.
And I heard that had actually broken records. I mean, some serious records when it came to money.
Yeah, it broke the Thursday night selling record. I guess it was Force Awakens. Had the highest Thursday night sales. It was Force Awakens, and they surpassed that. It was like $100-something million on that first Thursday preview night, which is just insane. That used to be a great weekend for movies. I remember when a movie would come out and it would make like $100 million over the weekend, and it was like, oh damn, it's like, that's good. Yeah. That was one day.
And we got Avengers movies friggin' breaking charts, $1 billion the first month it's out. Especially when ones like these come out, which, just to give you guys a quick update, I think we saw it today somewhere around the 1.2 billion as of earlier this morning, and that's worldwide, $350 million domestic. I mean, holy crap. Yeah. And let me just say, this movie impresses at many, many levels. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into some talk on it today. We're just getting into the discussion. We're definitely going to hit on spoilers. So again, if you have not seen the movie, you probably do not want to watch this video just yet. But if you don't mind the spoilers, then make sure you stick around and enjoy the ride. Make sure you ask some questions along the way if you join into the stream. So Dustin, the beginning of this movie, I think, totally set the tone. I mean, seeing Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, which I love Jeremy Renner, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there. Dude.
I like the way the movie opened. I really do. And he may not be my favorite Avengers character.
True.
But I really liked him in this movie.
It was great. I mean, he started straight off, and and it's weird because I already knew where they were going. I think a lot of people did too. But he's with his daughter, and all of a sudden she disappears. And at first I was thinking, oh, that sucks. He lost his daughter, and then they all disappeared.
They all are gone, and I feel like they have to show that scene because we didn't see him in Infinity War. So I feel like that was necessary to set up like what he lost. But such a good way to open the movie, and the way he played it too, like. Honey, like, where'd you go? He turns around, and then his wife and the other kids are gone.
Seriousness, just you can tell, and it's that kind of fight or flight. Siri seems to try to talk to me here. He's just trying to fathom what the hell's going on here, and then it just kind of throws off from there. So, as the movie just kind of jumps straight into it, we just start seeing a lot of drama built up, right? We see a lot of broken Avengers, right?
Yep.
And I think, who are the ones that kind of hit you the most, I think, or excuse me, I'm trying to ask, well, who was affecting you the most to see them so broken down?
I mean, well, first of all, you see Tony Stark, right?
Right.
Kind of up in space, and him and Nebula are there trying to survive.
That was a pretty solid set of scenes as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony, and by the way, man, he was looking all
famished
down, and obviously had nothing to eat up there whatsoever. Right. And
I think they said it was like 20. I think he was up there like 22 days or something like that before. Obviously, Captain Marvel comes and pulls him out. But like that, so that interaction with Nebula was cool, playing the paper football or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, what is it, babe?
That was pretty funny. But then you really see Tony was ready to die.
He was checking out.
He had given his messages to Pepper, and he didn't know if she was getting them or not. And then that scene where she kind of sits him in the chair, facing out the window, and it just looks like, damn, he's Is he gonna go? Like, no way, he's gonna go yet.
And then you see. In fact, at one point, he kind of falls asleep, and you're just like, oh no, and she picks him up, and I think this is also great storytelling and character building for Nebula's character, which, I don't think we've tried to care for her a bit, and she's gone through some rough patches, right? It's hard to kind of connect to her, she's a cyborg, but she even lays him in the chair, kind of like he's, kind of still flying it or whatever, and of course that's when Captain Marvel comes out. Now, I am going to throw it on out there. I did not see Captain Marvel. Okay?
I didn't either.
Okay. There are some things I just don't enjoy about the lead character that, in real world, that she just doesn't seem very humble. It feels like she's just kind of pissing on the other Avengers and kind of. But I realize if she's the future, and I don't want to get off on a politics rant or rave. I'm just saying there's some things that pretty much just said I'm not rushing out to see this movie just because you say I should. And let's face it, Dustin, and I think for the viewers, you don't have to see Captain Marvel. I mean, I
don't feel like I missed anything by not seeing it.
No, absolutely not. I saw, in fact, I was wondering, unless that maybe the end of Captain Marvel kind of showed her going off in space and doing whatever. But the point is she's monitoring space and all these thousands of planets and their people and stuff. She's a busy woman, so hey, rock and roll, do your thing. But honestly, other than Nick Fury getting scratched by an evil alien cat, and losing an eye, and some 90s throwbacks, I think you're pretty much good to go.
Yep.
Although my cousin Ryan did mention to me that it was a solid movie, so hey, go check it out if you need to. I'm just going to leave it at that.
And I'll catch it at some point. It was just, to me, it was, part of it was Brie Larson, but part of it was just, man, with the kid and trying to find time to go to the movie, it was like, I know I'm going to see Endgame, so I don't know that I could swing both of them. So yeah,
just don't have time to be rushing around trying to get it all done. So, but either way, that aside, we did get out there. We did see this movie, and as it continues on, after we've seen the breaking down, I guess, of the characters, and it's been so let's say before they do the time jump, right? They all kind of come together, and they're like, we gotta go pretty much kick Thanos' ass and see if we can get these stones back or whatever. So they get a small kind of skeleton crew, which is pretty much the only crew they can get together, right? And they pretty much jet on out to find Thanos, which, it's interesting enough, some kind of energy burst wave occurs, and they're able to track that. I think it was the little raccoon guy.
Yep.
I think
Rocket. Yeah, it basically said he used the stones again. That was the energy that emitted, and they could trace that. And that's how they found him.
So without getting long-winded with it, basically our Avengers get there only to find out that Thanos has destroyed the stones.
So this kind of blew my mind. Like, this whole interaction and kind of the plot here. Like, I didn't see that coming at all.
No.
And when they get there, and I read a lot about this too, and they really pushed the limits of PG-13, I think, in this movie.
I think so too.
I mean, you see it. They get there. They pull Captain Marvel comes in and kind of manhandles him, to say the least.
Pretty solid.
And they chop his hand off, like boom, hand chopped off.
Which, by the way, makes sense. I fully get it. Yeah,
sure. And then the glove kind of rolls over. You see the gauntlet there with the stones missing, and that's when they kind of find out that he destroyed them.
And you can see the looks on their faces, and we already know, like, Thor, he's majorly broken. And you know what? I started thinking about this even more, and I didn't really think about it so much when I had finished Infinity War almost a year ago or so. But to know that just because of his placement of his axe is pretty much the reason billions died across the universe. That is not a simple thing to take, and I think it was great to see that breakdown for him, and not to mention hilarious as all hell later on. Oh well, of course we don't see it yet, but either way. So they get there, and then of course ultimately they chop his head off, right? So for any of you peeps out there that are watching this that have young kids and you want to take your kids to see this, I have a buddy who's going to take his 7-year-old. I have friends that were showing his kid the Marvel movies at the age of 5, or even I think even 4. I think a few of them are okay. Are so bad. This is not one of them. But I didn't feel Black Panther was really kid friendly. I didn't think this one was really kid friendly. Infinity War is borderline even.
I'd say it's borderline. This one definitely pushed the limits.
Yes.
I said you see that PG-13 rating, and it's like, man, this got pretty dark, and like there were some words, and like there were some scenes that were just like, okay.
I can only imagine the route they probably wanted to go, but Disney's probably like, if we get R, then we lose most of our kids' fan base.
Absolutely. I feel like it was a good balance. Like it made sense for the tone of the movie and what it should have been, and I think it was spot on.
So let's just go ahead, because this is a long movie. We don't want this stream to go forever in a day. But so basically, we now port to 5 years later. Mm-hmm. And everything's just disheveled. You know, it was cool seeing the cityscapes. It was kind of neat. All the abandoned cars, the buildings. People just aren't together and whatnot. Now, I will admit, this felt a little hokey. And now you can help me out because, again, I did not actually see Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I shame on myself because it's not a bad movie. I just did not get around to seeing it before I got to see here. But that rat or whatever falls onto that time placement, which I assume that one of the final scenes of Ant-Man and Wasp was pretty much him trapped in the... What do they call that? Not
the quantum realm. The Ant-Man and the Wasp ends basically with Scott going into the quantum realm, and like Hope, Hank, and then Hope's mom are standing outside of the van, and they were going to pull him back out. And that's when the snap happened, and they all disappeared. So Scott basically got stuck inside the realm. It was.
So he was set to come back. He could come back. It's just. He didn't. He couldn't. Nobody knew he was there.
They were supposed to pull him out, right? So he didn't have a way out until the rat steps on the buttons.
Didn't these people watch Face Off? I mean, don't you know what happens when you only tell one or two people about what you're gonna do, and you know the shit's gonna come back to bite you in the you know what? So,
that's what happened, and that's why he was stuck in there. But luckily the rat saves the day.
He did, and so. Paul Rudd, he gets back. Ant-Man is back. He's confused as all hell. He's walking around, and I thought that was just kind of neat, just seeing from his perspective, finding this world that's disheveled, and he's trying to get information. He can't get what he needs. I thought it was pretty clever when he gets back, and we see that
the memorial.
Oh, the memorial. That was pretty cool.
And he sees his name on the memorial. That was pretty cool.
Yes, it was interesting that we didn't see any of the others. But either way, Hope or any of the others. But either way, point being, he finally makes his way to the Avengers base, and I thought that was pretty cool how they kind of brought him in there. And we see Black Widow is kind of running things, right? It seems. Yeah. Everybody else is pretty.
She's almost like the new Nick Fury. I kind of thought in my head. So she's kind of managing the remaining Avengers, and it's like everybody's. I don't know. I really like that they went 5 years ahead.
Yes.
Because you see that everybody's trying to figure out how they move forward, and I think that's what we're seeing here. Is everybody's kind of sticking to their lane and what's motivating them at the moment. And a lot of people lost people, so Black Widow's kind of running the team, and you got and it kind of explains here Captain Marvel and why you don't really see her much throughout the movie. She's
and
protecting a lot of other universes or whatever.
I was just fine with that. I got to be honest. I was just fine. I just didn't want her to overpower and overshadow the movie.
Yeah.
I want to give a call out to Davis Lyons. What's up, Davis? And welcome back. Davis has checked out some of our Dead Nightmare stuff. That's where he first found us. And and welcome. Is it Atius Alren, Master Splinter, MVP of Marvel? Hey man, I'm not gonna argue too much. In fact, it's so funny. I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles not long ago because we downloaded for the kids. They wanted to see what it was all about. Yeah, that
like
movie,
the original movie,
dude. The original.
Oh yeah.
Nice. So if you ever want that, just for a little relic, that's always good times.
Oh yeah.
But seeing the breakdown of all the characters and when and seeing Black Widow kind of taking over charge of things, and and I gotta admit, when I saw Steve finally come back, Captain America, he is absolutely my favorite Avenger. It took me some time to. I actually did not love the first Captain America movie. It was just the whole Red Skull and stuff. I couldn't fully get in touch with it, but. The more and more I saw Captain in the way, I feel like that's who I connect with,
Yeah. Oh, same here. And I did like the first movie, but The Winter Soldier was my favorite Marvel movie. I think still it's one of my favorites.
Slouch either, but Winter Soldier was an amazing movie. Yep. True that. So we see him come back, and they're trying to piece it all together. And and at this point, had Tony been found? Did he drop back in yet?
Oh yeah, Tony's been back. So they got Tony immediately, like 20 days after the snap, and then he was he was gone. He was with Pepper and.
You're right, and we did forget to mention the animosity and just the hurt it built in Tony Stark. And I gotta admit, the way they built up Tony Stark and Black Widow, I think they did a tremendous job throughout this movie, and for good reasons, which we'll get to eventually. But yeah, Stark pretty much,
because Tony and Cap never really resolved anything in Infinity War because they were never really together, right?
I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, and I did too until I saw this scene of him kind of unleashing on Cap there. But like, so he had his phone out and he was supposed to call him in Infinity War until the alien ship came down and he dropped his phone, and that's when Bruce ended up calling, Captain America. So Tony never really even saw him that whole movie. I guess so. This was the first chance they've had to kind of rehash everything that's happened between them, and the first time they've seen each other in quite some time. So yeah,
I see Tony as really the realist, and I see Captain America as kind of the optimist.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call him. I don't. It's not. It's just, but you can see they're two sides, right?
Yep.
Captain's always trying to look for the good. Tony's, he just kind of sees things for what they really are, and pretty much are crap. So I thought it was interesting. So anyway, we passed through. We got the 5 years going, and basically, how about when we saw the Hulk?
Oh yeah,
we got to talk a little bit about that. So
Professor Hulk,
Professor Hulk, which we have a friend of ours who wanted to know a lot more behind this, and although I agree, I would want to see more about it. There's just no time for it in this movie.
Yeah, there's too much going on in the movie that you have to explain already. So right. I think I like this decision to kind of just start there and show that, you kind of saw it coming in Infinity War when the Hulk wouldn't come out and Bruce was like, "What's going on, buddy?" Yeah. So like they had to come to terms with, he had to make that work somehow, and it sounds like he did. And it's been 5 years, so he figured out a way to kind of have the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. I was just reading a comment here. Let me see here. I felt Infinity War was a way better film, but Endgame was to be seen for the ending of the journey. So Endgame was good. Davis, I agree to some extent. I know Dustin and I'll tell you, let's get into this first before we get into all the more in-depth talk, because like we said, we can go for hours on this one, which we're not going to. But overall, let's just talk about this real quick, Dustin. I think I enjoyed this movie so much, and guys, judge me, this or that. I don't know what it was, and ever since I've had kids and stuff, I just feel my emotions and my connectivity changing and so forth. But they hit me on so many levels, between seeing Thor and going, which from Dark World, when his mom died, right? We get to see him back with the connection with his mom, and I haven't lost my mother, but I'm just thinking, I'm like, Jesus, how hard can this? This is so tough. Seeing Tony Stark, he has a child now. Tony has a big decision to make. Yeah. I mean, they're going to go and fool around with the time travel, which could ultimately sacrifice his family, and furthermore, depending on how things go, he could end up dead too, in which his daughter doesn't have a fight. All these different pieces, I don't know what the hell is going on with me, but I just throughout the movie, I felt I had random tears just kind of coming down, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, stop, because I'm trying to watch a movie, people look at me, they're like, what's this guy doing?
What's this guy? Dude, I was the same way. The same way. There were moments where I teared up, and my my wife, she loves Marvel movies, by the way, and she's been in on them since pretty much the Avengers. I think we've been seeing just about every one of them together, and she's all about it. And she was like, by the end of the movie, she was sobbing next to me. I think I texted you guys that I said, Emily was sobbing by the end, or maybe that was me. I don't know. Dude, it was probably both of us.
I will shit you not. By the very end, when said character dies, which we'll get to that in a second. Guys, spoilers all along this thing. If you're not seeing the movie, stop now, please. We don't want to ruin the movie experience. I hate spoilers, so don't let us be the ones to do this to you. But when said character is dead, and then they started doing the clips and the music was going, and I'm really good at catching music and some of the composers like Hans Zimmer stuff, and I can tell when they kind of try to reuse certain renditions of certain. The very first starting the song is actually a very similar clip of Castaway. Castaway is one of the saddest movies I have ever seen, and that soundtrack gets me every time. I can't hold my shit together. Him losing his wife, refining her, this and that, and then having to lose her again just because she's moved on. Anyways, they started playing it, and I go, if you use the music from Castaway, I'm literally gonna lose my shit. And I didn't, and they didn't fully use it, but it was starting to. But everything that was going on, and the funeral that for these lost Avengers. I felt my lips trembling. I was just like, really, really, dude, you can't. And so I was looking at the scene. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna think about Star Wars or something else fun. I was just a mess, man. But you know what? But that's why I love this movie.
Yeah,
it brought emotion out of me, and I actually felt tied to a character. So let's go ahead and talk about the character because there's no reason hiding anymore. We've already given plenty of spoiler. Things. So, who is it? Dustin, who dies at the very end? Tony Stark.
Tony, which I was expecting.
Captain.
Coming into this, I expected pretty much Cap, or I thought one of them, Cap or Tony, but I thought it would be Cap. I thought that would be the way they would close out Cap's story.
Yep.
Like he would die, he would take one for the team. But you see, and we'll go into the details. But seeing Tony die and leaving behind his daughter, and then seeing his daughter at that last scene with Happy, like oh my! I think that's when I started.
Is that Jon Favreau? Is that him?
Yeah.
Is that Happy? Mm-hmm. Dude, that. When because he starts losing his shit, and it's sometimes when you see a guy and you see him start to lose it, then you're like, oh man, because and she's like, and that little girl played such a great, just a beautiful little girl, and I'm just like,
I'm getting chills right now just talking about it. But she said, he said, what do you want to eat? Are you hungry? And she goes, I like cheeseburgers, which that's what. Think back to Iron Man 1. That's what Tony wanted on the way to the press conference when he revealed he was Iron Man. So it's like. It all kind of tied together, and he's like, "Yeah, your dad liked cheeseburgers too," and I'm just like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, dude, it was hard and heavy. And by the way, I'll just say, when I watch movies like that, dude, I fully invest myself into the moment.
Same.
I don't want to be here. Oh, dude. Okay, you guys, for anybody that's streaming in, which I know we have a couple people, you're gonna love this. So when you go to see a movie, I didn't tell you about this, Dustin. When you go to see a movie, and you sit next to that person.
Oh no.
This chick that was sitting next to me, I never got a good look at her because I didn't want her to think like I was thinking like she was an alien or something like that. She was one of those jump out of her seat, oh my god, making comments. I mean, not during the entire movie. She didn't ruin it for me, thank God. But I was listening around. I didn't hear other people doing it, and she's like, "Oh my god, did you see?" I'm like, "For me, would you just please stop?"
Yeah.
I mean, I'm over here trying to enjoy it in my own way, in my own, And by the way, in some ways, I'm like, hey, you're excited about it. It's better than somebody who's just like, this movie sucks and why did they kill them?
Yeah.
So. But dude, it was a mess. But yeah, seeing him give the total sacrifice, which I know we skipped really quickly to the end of things, but I think it's important to talk about why we enjoyed this. And Dustin, was there anything else that made you really enjoy this? And I know we have a couple comments here. I was just gonna say, it was an emotional movie. Was seeing my superhero Spider-Man turning to yeah. I mean, yeah, and I think that speaks to us all, right? Because we all have our favorites. So Dustin and I, we happen to share Captain America. Some people love Spider-Man. A lot of people love Tony Stark. Even as much as what a dick he could be, the dude was so useful. And he tried to keep his mind logical and grounded instead of letting emotion always run into things, unlike some of our other characters, right?
Yeah, I think for me, standout moments, obviously Tony. Thor was awesome. I just love that.
That's some great humor.
I love that they took it in that direction. And I think some people may have been kind of like, okay, this is kind of gimmicky, but to me it was different, it was unique. And I think even for like Chris Hemsworth, he probably loved getting into that different side of Thor. And
I think
it's funny what I told my wife after the movie. I said, I apologize. You get Cap shaving off his beard in the very beginning, and then you get a fat Thor.
Dude,
sorry.
People were rolling.
Oh man, my wife was like, when Chris Evans had the beard in Infinity War, she was all about it. She's like, oh yeah, I like that. And obviously Thor and Chris Hemsworth, she's all about too. So
sure.
I was like, sorry, they took away your two favorite things in the movie.
Now you get to just sit and watch a bunch of other crazy stuff go down.
Right. But I really liked Thor. I liked the direction that went. It was humor, but it was also like there's some seriousness to that too. Like that's the state he was in. He did feel like it was his fault that this all happened, and he could have stopped it. So he's kind of wallowing in his self-pity and lets himself go, and he's not the same Thor that he used to be. And you see that play throughout the rest of the movie. And I think people were some people were expecting him to just automatically like morph back into shape toward the end and be like the old Thor, but that's not who he is. He's somebody completely different.
And I think we saw this in a lot of different movies. Like, he's not Game of Thrones. He's not the king that was promised. He's a son, to Asgard, and he's supposed to fill this position. But I think he's just a whole other person, and I think that's what they were trying to get out, and probably in other ways too, about just basically be who you are, whether it comes to your sexuality, just your race, or everything else. I mean, you be who you are. Don't be who you're expected to be, and that's. I think that was a great comment. And Renee Russo played a really great job.
Awesome. She had some great scenes there that I wasn't. Again, the time travel thing was kind of tricky. I think it creates some holes, but again, I knew they were going to have to go back in time at some point to fix everything, but I just wasn't expecting everything that happened, and for them to go to specific parts of the other movies and the other events that have happened, and to create teams to kind of split up into those time. What was it? The time heist.
The time heist. You had to love
I enjoyed it. I liked the callbacks to the other movies and kind of where they tied in.
Yes.
You get to see Renee Russo come back from really not a great movie from Thor: Dark World, but
not so good.
There were moments and there were characters that were good when we saw that with her.
Sure.
So that was another big thing that I really enjoyed about the movie, and you kind of have to take it for what it is. You can analyze it and pick holes in it all day long with the time travel and kind of how that works, but they had to do it somehow. You have to go back and find everything, and you just kind of have to.
And it was very abrupt. I mean, it was pretty much it was as quick as Tony laying down in bed, which obviously he'd been pondering and trying to figure this out probably for some bit of time, but it couldn't have been that much time because but prior to their meeting with Black Widow and Steve and a few others, I think he didn't give a shit. He was just like, I have my family now. I've moved on. This is it. So, but it pops and he gets it. And if that just shows his brilliance, that's fine. But suddenly, it's like, maybe this time travel thing's actually going to work out.
Yeah.
And it's just, he just doesn't want to sacrifice his family. His one stipulation is that whatever we change, we don't change the last 5 years. Otherwise, that pretty much hoses his entire life. Right. I think that was great storytelling. You showed so many people broken. You see Steve trying to have support groups, and he's trying to help people get through it. But you have people that actually moved on, and they're like, there is life after, And,
exactly.
And
I think
that's a good point.
It was a great way to show everybody's dealing with this loss, but Tony's gained something these last 5 years. He has a family that he didn't have before.
And it was just great showing. Oh, just real quick, I know Davis is asking the question. I'm just trying to keep up with the questions. He said, how did our audiences react to the fat Thor scene? So on mine, again, they were laughing pretty damn heavily. And I was too. I was just like, holy shit.
Same, abrupt laughter. I didn't really get throughout the movie. I think there are a few other humorous parts that people laughed at, obviously. But
it trailed down.
It trailed down. And I didn't hear a lot of, naysaying or negative feedback at all. I've seen some in comment sections on other videos and things. I've seen a lot of people kind of dogging it a little bit because it went on too long, and they felt like it was just a big joke that went too long. But that's just not the way I looked at it. It was it was a real consequence of his actions and
and there's consequence for everybody, and we even see Hawkeye, and I forget his morphing, what his new name is or whatever.
It was Ronin, but they never mentioned it in the movie.
That's what I thought.
Probably because the villain from Guardians of the Galaxy was also named Ronin.
Oh,
they didn't want to confuse anyone.
Sure.
But I loved this new version.
He was
Clint, or whatever you want to call him.
Yes, Clint. Either way,
that was one of the other standout moments for me. Was Jeremy Renner's performance in this character now? He was pretty badass, and just going after these Yakuza guys,
cartels, and
early in the movie, cartels,
basically all the people that made our world awful before everything went to crap with Thanos and everything, and they lived. And he's like, you know what, you don't deserve to. And you know what, I'm right on board with them. I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing. It's just, I just felt it, and again, connecting to characters. I mean, right, Dustin? I mean, I just felt that we just kept jumping together. Yep.
And another instance of kind of pushing that PG-13 rating when he was when he was killing that last Yakuza boss.
Yeah,
it was pretty brutal.
Right. And so Steph asked me, she goes, "Is this a movie we can take the kids to?" Because she wanted to get the kids out, and I'm just like, I immediately went to that scene. I'm like, besides that scene, I'm like,
right.
I mean, Mason's 7. I mean, he's getting close enough, but I'm like, Jackson's 5. I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. So I'm just warning you guys. Let your kids see what you want, but I think too much these days, we're just like, well, I got nowhere else to watch the kids, so they're coming. I've seen people bring kids to movies. I'm just like, all right. Deadpool. I saw people bring in their
Logan.
Like, it was like a fight. I'm like, oh, dude, I think we went and saw Logan.
We saw that together.
They brought some kids.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell y'all how to parent, but y'all crazy, okay?
Y'all crazy.
I'm crazy. I'm just throwing it out there. But so, again, I want to hit on some big highlights of this.
Yeah, let's get back to some other big things.
So the time travel thing. So they rushed into it, right? And they don't explain a whole lot. And I think that pissed a lot of people off. But again, when you're doing a movie this epic and so much going on and all these actors and trying to get all this screen time in, you have to choose your battles. Right. And I think they realize this. Now, did they choose all the right battles? That can be argued. I mean, there's probably a few stories that maybe could have been tweaked a bit. But again, seeing Hulk and kind of, and seeing he can actually think now as well as trash everything, it's kind of cool to see that side. And it's also his development over time. Other than that, did you see any other big characters, Dustin, that has some big changes? I mean... Captain America stayed pretty solid to the cause.
Cap is Cap. You see a little bit more from Black Widow and Natasha, especially a little later. So
true.
So let's talk through time travel. So they have their teams and they're
3 teams.
They know each stone that they want to go get and when they're supposed to go back to get it.
Sure.
So you've got. Let's talk through Cap's team first.
Okay. So Cap they're going back to basically Avengers 1. Yeah, and it was Captain,
Tony, and
Tony.
Ant-Man. So there were 2 stones there. They had the Mind Stone and Loki's staff, and then they had the Tesseract as well.
Right.
So they were basically on a mission to go back to get both of those stones.
So they're going. I mean, they have to kind of engage themselves.
Oh, and Hulk was there. Hulk was there too.
Oh, that's right. Hulk was there.
Hulk was with them. Yeah.
And so he's trying. And so remember when Hulk gets, he goes, "Should I maybe go smash something or whatever, just to kind of?"
Yeah, they're like, "You probably need to smash something."
He's
so
like, you got to just toss something. I mean, it was
that was pretty.
The
funny.
humor and levity they tossed on this was at the right time, and I think it gave us enough to kind of feed on as we
agreed. So without going into every single detail of this scene, I think the big
pretty easily, right?
Yeah, the big moments where the staff was Cap, right? Yeah, Cap got the staff by basically fighting himself.
Dude, he gets in
which
this
was
elevator.
Awesome.
He gets in this elevator. He gets the box, but he knows he could be in trouble. So, the Hydra guys have it, which are actually part of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they don't know that they're Hydra yet. And but now, since he's from the future, they know all this. And so Captain kind of looks over and he goes, "Hail Hydra."
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty good.
I was ready for another fight from Winter Soldier because they were mirroring that scene exactly.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool for him to be like, "I got this, Hail Hydra," and you could see the guys were like, "Oh,
hey, he's
Cap's
on board.
our side, nice."
And then he
gets the staff, and then he has to fight himself, which is pretty funny.
That was a cool scene.
That was cool. And the comment, so the real Cap made a comment, "I could do this all day," and he's like, "I know," because he says that a lot, right? He says that a lot.
Wow, I hate my own comments, And there's a comment also that one of the characters made about Captain America's ass, being like, "That's America's ass right there." And then after he lays himself out, he looks down, and he goes, "That is America's ass." I mean, you gotta love it, but. Where things really go awry is when they try to get the other stone,
the Tesseract,
which is in a liquefied formation or something.
So it was in the Tesseract was in a cube. So the stone is inside that. You could see when Thanos gets it in Infinity War, he just crushes the cube basically, and the stone's there. So that's the space stone.
Okay.
So they had a good plan there to get it, and you see Robert Redford's character makes another cameo here from Winter Soldier, which was really cool.
Yep.
And then they create a distraction.
Oh yeah, that's right. Tony's telling him. So Ant-Man has to get small, and he goes into Tony's basically his circular disc that keeps them all together and whatever. Yep. And basically, future Tony's just like, just go ahead and do it because he knows.
It's just going to give me a minor arrhythmic shock or something like that.
So he snaps this thing, and he basically goes into half cardiac arrest. And Robert Redford, everybody's like, whatever. And the look on Loki's face when that case kind of just got flicked, and he's just kind of like. And
which creates, so I think that's the first kind of big question or what if. So you see obviously in this timeline,
in their time,
so they knock the Tesseract out of Tony's hands when the Hulk smashes through.
Right.
Loki picks it up and disappears. So
yes.
I think that's the first big question is where's Loki now in that timeline with the Tesseract? What does that mean? And I think what I've heard or what I've seen is he does have I believe he's getting a show on Disney Plus.
Really?
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston is going to be getting a show. So that may be...
They love his character.
That may be setting up kind of the basis for a show on Disney Plus.
I want to hit off this real quick. Since Davis is right here and he's still commenting with us, I want to talk about this, Davis. So you said you're disappointed how the time travel was done. So we have another friend who's also disappointed about this. So he was kind of confused by it, and I've been trying to run this through my head. They explain it and they go through it like super fast.
Yeah.
But basically, what I come to understand is because they were playing off of other movies and making fun of them, that the time travel that was happening from this quantum style was not like the traditional time travel that we know from like Back to the Future or any of the other time travel movies where basically I go back to the past, 20 years from now, I tell myself, hey, don't marry that girl, she's going to ruin your life and you're going to get divorced and this and that and whatever. So my character doesn't do it and everything changes and then my future's now changed. No, not anymore. What they're basically doing is they're traveling to another past and they're changing the things that are happening in that sequence of time. It's it's almost like there's levels of time that are kind of flowing, right? And so if these are our Avengers up here, they've traveled just to another layer of time, right, Dustin?
Yeah, kind of. The way someone explained it to me, or a video did that I understood it best, was it's almost like a separate universe.
It's a separate universe.
Think of like a multiverse or something like that, right? So you have this universe of the Avengers and what's happening, and you can impact that. But going back to your own time, everything that's happened has happened. Like, it is what it is.
But I think it was super important for people to understand that concept, because I think a lot of people, it was just it breezed over so quickly. It was like, I don't know if I fully get it. And at first, I heard what they were saying. I just didn't know how it was all going to work out. But basically, it was their way of trying to cover their own asses for basically the absurdity of how they were going to pull off this time. Right,
and it's like, how do you explain that in a different way? Or I don't know.
You can't. They explained it pretty much the only way most of us laymen could probably figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
the only part about that, though, that I don't get is at the end, and we'll definitely talk on this more when Cap comes back as old Cap.
Yes.
So if you go, so he went back in time to return the stones at the end of the movie, right?
Right.
So he never came back through the teleporter.
Right. He passed it.
So he lived his life
with
and so did he just live his life and then knowing that this all happened at this time, and he just showed up there at that bench at that moment because he knew that's when they were all gathered there? And if that's the case, how did he go back to a different universe and stay in that universe but still be affecting the universe they were in? I guess that was the big... If you want to analyze it, like think through it, I don't know. But,
and he was aged too.
Yeah, so to me it was, since he didn't come back through the teleporter, he just never came back. So he lived his full life.
Yes.
From the 40s when he went back, right? So he had aged fully.
Yes.
But if that were the case, how was he back in that universe then, without going back to the quantum realm or whatever? I don't know.
You're right, though. You're right, because if there's supposed to be different universes, then how did that even possibly affect that one? And which our good buddy Pell, he mentioned that he's kind of ticked off at that one. I can admit, if I were to redo that scene, I wouldn't have had him showed up at all.
Yeah.
He just would have been perfect is if they didn't show that, because you know why they brought him back? To pass the torch.
Right. Yeah. Which I loved. I love that. Like, that's great.
It was great. But when you really want to get down to it, if you don't want people criticizing your movie, they should have said he passed it up, and then have somebody have that epiphany, and then have that look, and then he goes, he's okay, And then that final scene of the movie, which I think was a beautiful final scene, and they show him just dancing and the old time music and stuff. I was like, that makes sense, right?
Right.
Bringing him back as older version, trying to pass the torch, although it was very cool, awesome makeup job with other special effects. It didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, maybe deduct a little bit for that one.
So I took it as it was just so cool. It was so good for me to see that, though. I didn't really care about the inconsistency. It was just like seeing him. First, when I saw him on the bench, from that faraway shot, I thought it was pre-serum Cap. I thought it was the skinny guy because he looked really small.
He did look
small. I said, he went back. Did he go back to before he got the serum? Like, how did that work? And then when they walked over and I saw he was old, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. He's just aged, yeah.
It is a bit confusing, and it's a bit distracting, too, I think, especially when you're closing out a movie and you want to close up all these... Which, by the way, they spent a good, between funerals and this and that, a good 15, at least, minutes, kind of close everything up. You need to be very careful how you close that up, because this is going to leave the impression on people. I mean, they should be remembering the awesome battles and stuff like that, but there are other things to consider, So we talked about Captain M's heist. They kind of went a little bit awry. They basically have to reroute themselves to which theirs was troublesome, right? Because they get one chance at this. They only have the PIM material that pretty much sent. They have one to get to their destination and one to get back. Very convenient, by the way. Right. Except for Ant-Man completely wasting.
We only have enough for just us.
We have 2 test trials. Make that one test trial. I mean, I was just like, dude.
So Cap and Tony have to go back even further, right, to the 70s, where they knew that the Tesseract and the PIM material would be there. So that military installation, Cap was there in the first Avengers, and then in Winter Soldier they came back there and it got bombed. If you remember that scene where
I barely do, to be honest.
Where Zolo or whatever his name was, that scientist, was kind of in the computer, and so him and Black Widow went back there, and they found that big mainframe computer in Winter Soldier, and that Zolo guy was talking to them. That's where that was, and it got bombed, basically, that big bunker.
Gotcha.
So they went back there. You see some cool scenes with with Howard Stark, and him and Tony have some good moments. So that was pretty cool.
Tony building back with his dad and building that connection. And again, as we see Tony go through this movie, you can tell it's like he's getting his heart back in some ways. He's getting to experience things that he had lost, and he didn't get to spend that extra time with his dad.
Which is the ultimate foreshadowing to
I know, right?
him biting it in the end. And I think it's funny because you see those moments happening, and to me, I didn't think anything of it in that sense.
I didn't.
I didn't see it as foreshadowing. I just saw it as, oh wow, this is great for Tony. Like he's growing so much and he's building so much. But like when you look back at it, it's like they're pretty much laying it out the whole movie that he's going to be the one to.
Yeah, you're right. And so basically they get the PIM material, they get what they need, and they get out. Well, not easily, but through a bit of problems and suspicion. I think Yvette Porter's her name. She was the one on the elevator. That's the actress's name. But who noticed, or didn't recognize the two guys pretty much. It's like, I don't know who these guys are. And anyway, she's a fun actress. But let's just, since I'm already thinking about it, let's jump to Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner's scene. So they go back to find the Soul Stone. And again, this should have been so blatantly obvious in front of my face, but I didn't think that the two of them were going to have to make the decision of killing one another.
I knew it. So they were with Don Cheadle and Nebula in the beginning, and they kind of split up, right?
Right.
So when I saw Black Widow and Clint going together for the Soul Stone, I knew at that moment, and I even whispered to my wife, I was like, one of them's going to die.
Shit.
And she goes, what do you mean? I was like, you have to give a soul to get the Soul Stone. And so they didn't know that, right? They knew that Thanos got it there, and they knew that Gamora didn't come back with him after he left, but they had no idea that he had to actually
circumstances or what it means. Yeah. And friggin' Red Skull comes out, all creepy as hell as always, but stick to the same storyline. It's almost like he was like a hologram, just kind of like, hello, I'm here to tell you about this. But he does. He tells him about it, and you already know that, although it wasn't like love, like I want to be with you for the rest of my life, but they had a big time caring for each other.
Yeah.
More than just your standard, friend. And watching them fight it out to try and sacrifice themselves was very intense. And honestly, it kept me for that good 45 seconds to a minute of them going back and forth. I was like, I don't know who's going to make it off.
I had no idea.
But when they finally fell off that cliff and I saw her on the lower part and him holding on to her, I'm like, ain't no way. There's so many scenes you've seen in other movies when you can't lift him up.
Cliffhanger?
Or Ace Ventura, the little squirrel. But don't, dude.
Great scene.
Great scene. It was emotional scene. Yep. Black Widow's character has never been a super favorite of mine. I mean, I think she's just kind of been another, body, just kind of doing good. But again, symbolically, what she was trying to accomplish in keeping the Avengers together, keeping things rolling, and basically willing to sacrifice herself because she knew she didn't really have any family around, and that Jeremy Renner still had a family to go, Hawkeye still had a family to go back to. Again, just
I think back to the first Avengers movie, whenever Black Widow's talking to Loki in the ship.
Yes.
And she's like, it's easy. I have red in my ledger and I want to wipe it out. And he's like, can you really get rid of that much red? Or can you wipe out that much red?
Yeah.
It's funny to see like where she was. Obviously did a lot of bad shit.
That's true.
Back in the day. And
she did a lot of
I feel like this is her chance to kind of rectify and clear out that red, right? And
sacrifice
she finally
herself
gets
for
to do
something
that.
so great, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because if they don't get the stones, no go, right? It's all or nothing. So, and you could tell that just tore Hawkeye to pieces, just having to lose her too. Even knowing that he'd get his family. And he was fine. And I love that about his character. I was loving Jeremy Renner's character. Just knowing that his family would at least come back, even if he wouldn't be there.
Right.
I mean, how selfless can you get? Anyways, a great deal. So, obviously, he wakes up into the pool of water. Very cool scene, just like Thanos did, right? Just oblivious, almost kind of what just went down for a moment, and opens his hand to see the stone. And so our last crew. Let's talk about the last crew.
So you had, I guess there were actually two more technically.
Oh,
so,
was it four?
Well, there were three, but War Machine and Nebula broke off from Scarlet. And,
oh, that's right. They had to go with.
Yeah,
you want to do them?
So yeah, they went to get the Power Stone from
that Morag or
Morag. Morag. Like that's where you see Chris Pratt dancing in with the little.
They had him come back.
The little womp rats or whatever.
I have a feeling they reshot some of that scene.
Yeah,
I don't think they used all the footage.
I think they reshot it, and it's like, this guy's an idiot. So
he's an idiot.
So he's an idiot.
Yes.
So obviously they take that from him, but this is where you get the whole Nebula linkage, right? And I know I think Mike Appel was texting us about this, and wasn't he saying that he didn't really get that or didn't like that part or understand that part? But
it's possible. I'm trying to remember what I didn't like about it, but
you have to find a way to get Thanos involved, right? Like he has to find out what's happening. Otherwise, you don't have a third scene or a third act of the movie.
So that was the thing. I think he was a little upset that they kind of showed Thanos up in the beginning, and then he was just wiped, and then you kind of see him a bit. The last hour and a half? Which, you know what? That's all good and fine and well, and it's good stuff. But we already know Thanos' his motives,
right.
So killing him off in the beginning because they felt that's what would. Well, excuse me, Thor just did it pretty much out of anger and rage, right? They just done with him. But bringing him back the way they did was because it brought out kind of another side of Thanos.
Yeah.
Not only did he have his original plan, but now he starts thinking about it even more. And he's like, my original self, I made a mistake. So what happens is, pretty much, other time universe Nebula gets a linkage with her cyborg, self, which is our universe Nebula. And she starts seeing her vision, or like her basically, or like a record of everything that's been going on. Thanos learns everything. This is a major game changer and a big effing problem, right? And
I kind of liked that. Like I liked how they did it. I can't think of another way to make that happen and bring Thanos back into the fold. I feel like it makes sense, right? She's has a lot of like machine type parts and computer memory parts. So
it was a connection. It was weird, almost like an electrical disruption,
right?
And it did. But furthermore, we see Gamora, and we see her still on the side of her father. Now, again, I think she has those feelings already, where she's kind of like, I think he's even worse than I think, So it was interesting
because this is, you think about Guardians of the Galaxy and the timing and pacing of that movie. So Star-Lord gets the stone,
right,
and then goes and things happen and he gets thrown in that prison where he meets Gamora. That's not a very long time span. So
no.
So the amount of time before Gamora would have met Star-Lord and start talking about, that's my father, Thanos is my father. Like she obviously had those feelings already because she was stating that, weeks, months later, in the movie. So, you get to see Gamora. You get to see kind of who she was, I guess, before we met her in Guardians, which was interesting.
Sure. Remind me what happens. So I know they capture, obviously, our time Nebula. I forgot what happens to War Machine. How did he get kicked out of the
He transported back.
That's right, and she didn't
right as she malfunctioned.
Oh, yeah. She malfunctioned. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they definitely had some big problems. Again, this I don't know if I wouldn't call this the climax, but this is definitely a twist, right? Because Thanos, this was not in the plan for him to friggin' find out pretty much their entire objective, and now he can pretty much maneuver around it, which ultimately he gets to bring his whole entire army in the next 30 minutes and start just destroying things. So to finish off our time travel crew, I'm sorry, who do we leave
with Thor and Rocket? So we talked a little bit about those scenes with Thor and his mom, so I don't know that we need to hit on much more there, but
but it was great.
You get Thor kind of being he's nervous, like he's kind of scared, he doesn't think he could do it.
They definitely didn't hit on Jane much, except that she had the stone
the
within it, and Rocket's like, I need to stick her and get it. So
that's interesting. So I've read some about that. So they parted ways with her after Dark World. I think she was upset with how the studio was kind of treating. I don't know if it was just her or maybe how much she was going to pay or something with her in the studio, and they basically wrote her out of the next movies. But I didn't know if they shot new scenes with her, if they used old footage, but she was at the premiere
I think they had
a few days ago.
Scenes. Yeah, I think they did. Not a ton, but maybe they reconciled.
So she obviously was fine with it or whatever, and things were all good again. But yeah, it was interesting to see her again, and that again, the scenes with Thor and his mom were amazing. And then you see right before they take off, what does he do? He goes, "Wait," and he gets Mjolnir back, which is awesome.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. You got that. Yeah, so you had both of them coming in. I was like, now that looks like a damn good time about to go down.
When that happened, whenever he said wait and he's like holding his hand out, I was like, oh, yes.
So I know we're coming up almost to the hour on our talk over this, and I don't want to get too much over that. So let's just get down to, our Avengers get back, and they're like, holy crap, did this really just happen? And they're all looking around. Unfortunately, Jeremy Renner Hawkeye is one less with no Black Widow next to her side. You can tell they're all hurt by this, but almost before they can even blink an eye, Thanos' ship comes out of almost nowhere. Well, excuse me, he comes through the damn portal, right?
So they actually do the snap first. So they get the glove built, and they get Hulk is the one who says basically, I'm going to take this and do it because it's a lot of gamma radiation, and I think I could take it. It almost killed Thanos. You saw what it did to Thanos.
Right.
So he's the one that takes it, and he does the snap. And it was like immediately after that snap, they're kind of looking around, and they're like, I think it worked. And then you see Thanos' ship. Yeah, Thanos' ship comes in, and it's like just decimates the whole facility.
Just rockets out the A and just levels it.
And I'm thinking like, man, people are dead. Like, who's dead? Because that was
and a miracle. Right? A lot of them are still okay. They probably shouldn't have been, but you got Hulk down there trying to keep everything up over. I think it was Rocket.
War Machine and Rocket were down there below,
and everybody's just kind of getting back to themselves, saying like, "What this hit us?" And just when everything's looking just awful and there's no way around it, we got those portals that start opening up, and I gotta admit that was a pretty exciting scene.
That was awesome. I think though they did fight him for a bit though before
they did. Sorry,
Strange came in. So what do you got? You have Hawkeye finding the gauntlet and kind of trying to run it out.
He's running past those friggin' dog monsters, which are on his ass, but he's using some awesome tricks to get around it. And you got Captain and Tony and Thor. And Thor, he comes out there and he's just, I can't remember the line he said to him, but.
Oh, I don't remember either, but he had Stormbreaker and he had Mjolnir dual wielding it just like.
But I remember he says something like, I can't remember if it was just like, we're going to kill you this time, or we're not going to let you get by this time. I'm going to aim for the head this time, or whatever. And his eyes just start going, everything starts electrifying, and you're just like, oh, man. And between Captain 2 and they're getting down, and Tony's trying to use everything in his arsenal, and they're kind of whooping on him, but he's whooping them back pretty good, too.
Yeah, they kind of get their ass beat there for a while, and then
pretty good.
we see Thor kind of beat on him, and then he even gets knocked down a little bit, and then like my favorite scene of the whole movie, and I think the theater kind of erupted.
Yeah.
In my viewing, at least.
Oh my God!
Was when you see Mjolnir come flying by, and Thor's on the ground, so it wasn't him. So then like that's.
Yeah, I think he was about to lay a landing blow.
Yeah.
I think, and and he comes back to him, and I'm just like.
The whole theater like cheered in my viewing, and then you see him. He's got a shield. And he's got Thor's hammer, and he just starts whooping that ass, like
yes,
boom, boom, hit him with the shield.
I loved how Thor was like, he goes, "I knew it." You know? I mean, that was great. I mean, just working together as a team. Oh, you gotta love it. And yes, just whooping his ass. I finally felt like I got the dose of Captain action on him. And by the way, not all win. I mean, Captain gets laid out pretty good, and I think that's a great thing to see because although he's a great warrior and he's a great leader and everything else, he still got laid out. And
but it was gratifying to see, like after Infinity War when he went up against Thanos and pretty much just got bitch slapped to the side. It was nice to see him do some damage, and he did. Like he held his own there for a bit, and he kind of shook him up. But then he gets laid out, breaks his shield.
Just when it looks like Captain's at the very end.
Yep. What was the line first? It was on your left, and it was Sam. He said on your left, and he looks over, and the portals start opening up, and you got Strange kind of bringing people into the battle.
All of his people, like because Strange had like a little following, right? He had a couple of those other people. Anyways, they can create the portals, and they just all start flying in, and just seeing everybody start getting lined up. I mean, who didn't feel good?
That was awesome. And then you get the classic Avengers assemble.
Yes. And then off they go to pretty much start, and then it just gets rocking with Thanos. And even seeing the Scarlet Witch, and since she lost Vision.
We don't have to go through every scene here, but that Scarlet Witch scene was pretty sweet.
But she starts rip. She's like, she goes, "You don't." He goes, "I don't know you." She goes, "You will." And I'm like, "Oh, sweet revenge!" And she starts ripping his armor off like that. And
she's like pulling him apart, basically.
And he knew he was in trouble too, because doesn't he yell up to pretty much launch a fire barrage or something?
And the his general or whatever was like, what about our troops? And he's like, just launch it. So it's like he knew that
from Braveheart.
if he didn't do something, that he was screwed.
He was screwed. And so how do we finish this off? I guess just to kind of.
What other cool scenes were kind of throughout this fight? You have Captain Marvel coming down and basically destroying his ship.
So after he called up to his ship to rain the fire, which he did, and it was looking pretty crappy. I mean, everybody's getting torn up, everybody in the field, and it also hit Scarlet Witch, so that she lost her powers, kind of get him in the hold, right? But then, just when you think the ship's going to cause even more decimation. Yeah, Captain Marvel.
The guns actually shifted and started firing into the clouds. Do you remember that?
So I guess maybe they saw her coming, maybe. Or something?
Yeah. The view shifted and the guns started firing into the clouds, and everybody's kind of like, "What's going on?"
What are they shooting at? And
and she just barrels right through the ship and blows it up, and then comes down and starts whooping ass on Thanos. So that was
right.
That was pretty cool too, because she was like, I don't know if it was kind of reflecting back to Infinity War. Remember when he punched Cap and Cap like grabbed his hand and he couldn't hold on to it and he finally got punched to the side?
Right.
She kind of had a similar scene here where she grabbed his hand and really just kind of bent it back, like showing her force.
It was like breaking his fingers almost.
So I think that was maybe that was showing that reflection of like, you see Cap struggling with his hand and like can hardly hold it. And she just showing how strong she is. Like she just like bent his hand backwards. Yeah.
And then who else went over there to get a handle on it as well? I'm trying to think.
I mean, you see Spider-Man come in and do his thing, and they were trying to get
they're jumping around and so forth, and he finally
trying to get the gauntlet to the other side of the.
He finally gets his hands. Thanos gets his hands on that gauntlet, and he gets ready to put it on, and I'm just like, no, not again, And Tony races. That scene. That scene with Strange as he's holding off the water and
holding the water, and then so Captain Marvel, Thanos had to absorb the Power Stone.
Oh, that's right.
He took that Power Stone out in his bare hand and then punched her with it, which basically like just sent her flying. That's
knocked her out for a little bit.
That's how he basically got her off of his.
I almost thought he knocked her into oblivion because I was just I was like, where did she just go? She gone. But yeah, so he does that. Now they know they're in deep stuff, and Strange is over there trying to hold the water down, which he's got like a little typhoon type thing going. But he looks over at Tony, and he throws up that one, which I saw that in a couple of different ways. Because like I remember he said that there's a 14 million chance. Do you feel like he was almost telling him like, you're that one?
Kind of like, because I think they had a line before that where he said, you saw the one eventuality where we won. He's like, is this it? And he goes, if I told you, we wouldn't win or it wouldn't happen. So I think they were kind of going back to that to say, like, I think he is kind of telling him, like, this is that, it's either this is that moment or you're that one, or giving him the signal that he needed to know that, it's my turn to take action.
Tony realized he had to make that move. He was, because he's one of the most nimble ones, especially with his power armor and stuff like that. And he races over there, and Thanos throws him off, and he goes, what did he say? He goes, inevitable.
I'm inevitable, or something like that.
And just snaps, and almost like a dead, flashlight trying to flick on after the batteries have gone dead. The stones are not there, and he go over to Tony, and he's got it in his hand, and I'm just like, oh no!
What an awesome moment, man!
Yeah, just to take it out, and he does it. And not to mention, Thanos' new plan was pretty much to wipe all existence, because pretty much knowing the people would not be able to comprehend and move on in a good way. They'll always fight it and resist and be unhappy. So he wants to wipe everything and start a whole.
And he was going to create, new life. So that was an awesome scene. You just see him because, like, I didn't expect him to have another glove, right?
No.
With all the the sockets for the
power.
Stones. Yeah. You just see him kind of turns his hand around, and then you see all the stones there.
And they raced through that too a little bit too, because that was the whole point of. I remember the original, it was trying to create a glove that could harness that much power. Either way, again, and that's again, guys, when you're watching a movie like this, I always hit back on this suspension of disbelief, and basically it's a real thing where you're basically having to put all other major reality things to a side and just be like, no, we're in this. I need to stop thinking so logically about what's going on here and enjoy the moment and the situations for what they are. And some movies go too far, and you totally lose your audience. But some, they keep you kind of hanging on because there's these back and forth. So, again, when I fully invest myself in a movie like The Avengers, I go in it with the world and knowing that there are things that can happen in this world that unfortunately just aren't possible in ours, right? Yep. And for those who want to keep yelling and crying about the time travel, guys, newsflash, time travel is not real. Okay?
That's what you say, man.
Yeah. Hey, Marty McFly says other words, and Doc, 1.21 gigawatts up your ass. No, but seriously, guys, nobody knows how time travel truly works. So, hey, just enjoy it for what it is. Have some fun. Anyways, though, so yeah, to see Tony so hurt after that event, and he's just sitting there, and I thought it was amazing. I don't even think he got a word out. He was trying to, but he didn't even. Yeah. And Pepper came over, and even as much as I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, nobody else does either, but it was kind of cool seeing her flying around and doing her fun stuff too. Yeah. And when she tells him you can rest now, and I was just like, that's so tough and rough. And there he is. He died just right there.
Then you got the funeral scene. You got everybody back. There was a teenager in the scene that
who was that?
I didn't really know who it was. It was the kid from Iron Man 3, that little boy that he basically fell into his house or whatever in Iron Man 3, and then he helped him rebuild his suit.
I wonder if he became like Tony's kind of protege. I wonder if he's kind of like maybe the future of.
I think it. I don't know if it was just a good callback for that kid, because it was the actual actor who played the kid. I did look that up too.
Nice.
I don't know if it means anything more than that. Maybe maybe there's something that'll come out on Disney Plus or something that'll kind of evolve that storyline. But
they're gonna need a new Iron Man, right?
And he was like a little prodigy, it seemed. He knew a lot about Tony Stark and Iron Man.
He had smarts. I think there's definitely a possibility, because let's face it, they have to pass the torch, right?
Yep.
And speaking of that, and I know we talked about it earlier, and then we're going to go ahead and start finishing wrapping this up, but we do see Captain basically try to go back and return those stones, and like he promised, like promises that were made by
Banner.
Banner, and that was a very cool scene too when he tried to talk.
And we didn't go into that much.
We did, and I don't want to get too much into it, but that was kind of a hard sell to get her to believe them. But I think the big takeaway there is I think she realized she almost made a mistake by just so willingly giving it to Strange. I guess that's why it was kind of everything reflecting back and her saying, okay, I'm going to have to trust you now. Yeah,
if he gave it away for a reason, then that must have been a good reason. So here.
So that was definitely meaningful. A lot of meaningful writing throughout the movie when you really look at it. Again, stretching the boundaries, absolutely. But guys, when it's time travel, get ready for the shit show, because they're going to do whatever they have to do to try and fix things. X-Men. They went and just rewrote a ton of storyline. They said, hey, you know what, X-Men 2, 3, and even, hell, probably 1, 2, we're just going to go ahead and pretend those didn't happen, and we're gonna do this. So, but other than that, Dustin, wow, if you had to rate this movie, Avengers Endgame, and you think about, like I said, the little nuances, maybe things that didn't fully add up, where do you come down?
So I'm still at like a 9.5. Even the little nuances for me, it didn't take me out of just the sheer emotion the movie brought out. The character, I don't know. It was just like this was more of a story of loss, how you deal with loss. Kind of that hope that's regained, and kind of these new ideas or new ways to go back and get things. And then you've got the great character building, and it's almost like a poetic ending. And I just felt like they ended it in such a good way, because these guys are done. Cap's done. RDJ's done. It's Tony. So how else are you going to pass that on? But I think they did it. They did a damn good job of getting you invested, of bringing that emotion.
Yes.
Giving us a badass battle scene toward the end, throwing in some surprises. I think I just went into the movie not really knowing what to expect, and I was very surprised. A lot of things happened that I didn't really think would happen, and I enjoyed that. I liked kind of not knowing really, because you think of Infinity War, you kind of know, like, you're going up against Thanos. He's trying to get all the stones. He's probably going to get them. He's probably going to snap his fingers.
Yep.
And then you're going to have to deal with that.
Yep.
But this movie, I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how they were going to get all this done.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was going to cost them, even if they did, and it was just well done, man.
I think I had expected a few more Avengers to die. Not that that's necessary per se, and I'm kind of glad it didn't. I think the ones that they lost were extremely meaningful and made sense. Again, we knew they were closing up a decade worth of movies and storytelling, and when Tony he looks at Thanos and says, "I am Iron Man," and he replies, "I mean." Full circle, man, right? I mean, you just feel like that full connection. He snaps it. So again, I think we're fully aligned. I'm giving it the 9.52. I don't want to be just like any other reviewer and just say, "Oh, the movie's amazing, it's awesome." Guys, it was a solid movie. I mean, I left there just thinking that was friggin' epic. That was an epic, amazing.
It was epic.
Ride. It just was. Yep. And especially if you've seen, and that's even with me missing a couple movies in between, which I kind of wish I did, and I'll go back and watch them eventually, but it still didn't hurt me any the less.
Right. And this is I just feel like this movie and these movies have been an event that we're not gonna see again. It's almost like I almost felt sad afterward, because it's like it was such an awesome experience, but I know that I'm not going to see Chris Evans again as Cap.
Oh, I know.
No, I'm not going to see Robert Downey Jr. again as Iron Man. Like, these characters that you've kind of been with for the last 10 years.
Yes.
They're gone, and they're going to wrap up and do something new, which I'm sure it'll be interesting. But like, how do you recapture what you've made there? And like, it's kind of sad. Like, we're not going to see anything like this. I'm going to say we're not going to see anything like this again for, I don't know, 20 years. I don't know.
This ensemble of cast members, that the way they worked it out between the writers, between the actors, and everything else in between, and all the talent and cinematic effects and prop design, everything else that came together with this. I mean, sure, they went over the top in a lot of the movies, absolutely. But when you look at really what they tried to accomplish, I mean, they have given us a lot of great material to watch. And I mean, Chris Evans can live out the rest of his life knowing he was Captain America.
Yes.
I mean, Tony Stark, I am Iron Man. And Jesus, that should be on his tombstone one day. And it'd be rightfully so, too. He deserves it, So the movie was great, guys. You definitely need to go see this one. Not that I really want to pour into the Disney powerhouse that is just out of control. And Dustin, I think you said it. You said it quite eloquently in a text message to Mike and I. Too many
self-indulgent wieners with too much bloody money.
If you can name that movie, I'm going to send you some free Z-Man stuff eventually when I get it ordered in. But
when we have it,
But guys, yes, check out the movie. It was awesome. We hope you.
Hopefully, you've already seen it if you're watching this.
True story. I know there's some out there that don't give a crap about spoilers, but this is one of those. I don't see how you really spoil a movie and then go watch and enjoy it. I've never understood that. I don't understand how people can have awesome, amazing moments spoiled ahead of time, then go in and say, "Yeah, I enjoy the movie just as much." Like, what? You know what's going to happen. Then what's the point of watching the movie?
Right. So, hey, before we kind of end the review, I do want to say kind of what I'm looking forward to after everything that's happened. So, the Loki thing I think is interesting. So, I think we're going to see more from Tom Hiddleston on Disney Plus. I think we're going to get a Falcon and Bucky series on Disney Plus too. So I think that's part of the reason they passed that along too. Is you see now Falcon is the new Cap, and you've got Bucky there too. I think they're getting their own series.
They're gonna have to shoot Disney him up with something though, because
I know.
As much as I love Falcon, you are human. I mean, I just don't see it. And you know what? Even if they're like, "Oh, that's too hokey," you can't just go and inject him. Honestly, I'd be fine with it. I'd be fine with it.
I agree. And then the last big thing,
by the way.
I do too. The last big thing was Thor and the Guardians at the end. I thought that was amazing, and to me, it leads to we're going to see Thor in the next Guardians movie, which has to happen. It has to happen at this point.
Gamora's
the way they said
she was missing in action there. That was Gamora's kind of weird.
Missing. Yeah, so I think that's probably the big plot point of Guardians 3. They're going to be searching for her, and who else? Who knows what else happens there? But I think we're going to have Thor and the Guardians together, which is going to be it's going to be amazing. Like, I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
So let's hope that Marvel can continue their streak and continue to bring us great content. Let's hope that certain new characters don't muck it up. I'm not going to name any names. Let's just say keep your stuff together, keep your opinions to yourself, and just be a great actor or actress and just do some great movies, right? So with that said, guys, this is the Z-Man Show. Oh, you know what? I did tell...
Davis,
I did tell Davis I was going to hit back on that Stanley. So he rolls by in some hot rod, right? I mean, just... I can't remember what he yelled out the window, Davis. I don't know if you're still watching.
Did he say make love, not war, or something like that?
Is that what he said?
I don't know.
Because he passed not long after that. Probably those scenes were shot, I bet.
Yep.
Again, Davis, I don't know if you remember what he said, but when I think about it, I thought it was fitting, especially knowing that he's no longer with us anymore. The man has brought something that's just insurmountable. There's no way to put a number on it or anything else. Just how amazing this franchise truly is. It
was pretty emotional to see that, knowing that's his last cameo, and
it happened so fast. I think I was laughing more than I was.
Oh yeah, it's just the guy has just done so much for and like people like me, like I wasn't a comic book fan. I didn't read.
I wasn't either.
Comic books, but in the way the new medium of bringing kind of that entertainment out in these movies has definitely caught my interest and made me a huge fan. So that's we owe that man a lot because he's brought us a lot of entertainment.
Hey, peace out, Mr. Stan. And with that said, that's a perfect time to say peace out to you all too. So I hope you guys enjoy. We know this was a lengthy one, but this was purposeful. Hey, Davis, thanks so much for coming out and staying with us, buddy. Unfortunately, we didn't have too many people join us on this one, but we did have a pretty good Game of Thrones showing. Dustin and I were pretty excited. We had at least 100+ viewers staying in with us, and I thought that was just great.
Yeah, that was fun.
And so, Davis, if you watch Game of Thrones, make sure to come back out and hit us next week. We're going to do the plan is 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. We may have to move it to 10:30 because some of these episodes are now going almost an hour 30.
Yeah.
I'm going to schedule it ahead of time so we'll know what's going on. But thanks again, man, for coming out. You are amazing, awesome, and I hope you've enjoyed The Dead Nightmare. We're working on it. God, I'm so behind. I can't even speak to it, but we got plans, and I'm working on it. So with that said, this is the Z-Man Show. Make sure to visit us at www.deadnightmare.com to check out other movie reviews, TV show reviews like The Walking Dead. There's just some crazy stuff going on in the back half of the last season 9. And we also have our Dead Nightmare zombie series if you're into that and you want to check some of that fun stuff out. Dustin's going to be back here. We're doing a new Skype type session where Dustin can get on a lot more of the reviews. So hope you're enjoying his comments as well. We will have some other live comment and content coming out soon, but also just some other standard regular uploads as well. So Dustin, if you have anything to say.
I don't, man. What crazy weekend. I'm like drained.
We're drained.
I need to replenish.
It's
recharge.
a replenishing. We watched a bunch of crazy stuff. We talked about a lot of crazy stuff. Yep. So again, thank you so much for watching. And with that said, we will see you at the next review.
See you guys.